Hello students, today we'll discuss about the suboccipital triangle. In this topic, we only discuss about the boundaries of suboccipital triangle. Now I will tell you how to draw the boundaries and how to remember the boundaries of suboccipital triangle. Now, where you will find this suboccipital triangle? Now this is the first thing which you should know, where we will find the suboccipital triangle. It is present in the suboccipital region. Now where you will have the suboccipital region? Now when you will see the skull from the lower side, that is known as your norma occipitalis. In this, what you are able to see, this blue color bone is your occipital bone. Now on this blue color bone, if you will see that this is the foramen magnum and this region is known as suboccipital region. क्लियर? तो ये जो बच्चों सबऑक्सिपिटल रीजन है, ये सबऑक्सिपिटल रीजन किस मसल से छुपा हुआ रहता है? Now when you will see from the posterior side, यहाँ पे एक मसल आती है और उस मसल का नाम होता है trapezius. So when you will see the trapezius, this trapezius is attached here. क्लियर? पीछे की तरफ आपको सबसे सुपरफिशियल मसल कौन सी मिलती है? ट्रेपेजियस. तो जब आप ट्रेपेजियस को कट करते हैं तो ट्रेपेजियस के नीचे हमें मिलती है मसल्स लाइक सेमी स्प्लेनियस कैपिटिस, स्प्लेनियस कैपिटिस, वो यहाँ पे अटैच होती हैं. तो व्हेन यू विल कट ऑल दीज मसल्स, ट्रेपेजियस, स्प्लेनियस कैपिटिस, देन यू आर एबल टू एक्सपोज दिस एरिया एंड दिस इज नोन एज सबऑक्सिपिटल रीजन. दूसरी चीज जो बड़ी इंपॉर्टेंट है कि यहाँ पे व्हाट यू विल हैव हियर, here you have the spinal cord and this spinal cord present in the vertebral column. That means that through the suboccipital region you can approach to the intervertebral areas in cervical region. It is as simple as that. So you have to understand that suboccipital region present just behind this foramen magnum. Suboccipital region present just behind this foramen magnum, but deep to the trapezius muscle. So what is the suboccipital region? Suboccipital region located below the occipital bone on posterior aspect of the neck, and within this region we have the suboccipital triangle which lies deep to the splenius capitis, semi-splenius capitis and trapezius. I hope this is very important concept which is clear to you कि अगर आप डिसेक्शन कर रहे हैं तो आपको सबऑक्सिपिटल ट्रायंगल कहाँ मिलेगा? सबऑक्सिपिटल रीजन में मिलेगा. और सबऑक्सिपिटल रीजन क्या होता है? Where you will find the suboccipital region. Now in this diagram, if you will see from the posterior side, the whole vertebral spines are visible. So these are the vertebral spines. Now this is your posterior part of the skull, and when you will see where you will find the suboccipital region. So if you know, we have the muscle. Now what is this muscle is? Now this is your trapezius. This is a big trapezoid shaped muscle which is present on the back, and this is the most superficial muscle, and this is your trapezius. Now when you will cut this trapezius, when I remove this trapezius in this part, at that time we are having the another layer, those are known as splenius and semi-splenius capitis. After removing that, we are able to find out a triangle here, and that triangle is known as suboccipital triangle. That triangle is known as suboccipital triangle. Clear? So suboccipital triangle is a very deep triangle, and it is present deep to the muscles of the back which are present in your neck region. Now what are the boundaries? So the first thing is that when you are having the suboccipital triangle, there are 4 muscles. Out of these 4, the 3 muscles are making the boundaries of the triangle directly. These are the rectus capitis posterior major. Rectus capitis posterior major is covered by the posterior minor. Clear? So we'll discuss this minor later on because it does not contribute in the direct formation of the triangle. Apart from that, you have the two oblique muscles. One is the superior and one is the inferior. Clear? So whenever you are reading the suboccipital triangle, आपको तीन नाम सबसे पहले याद रखने हैं. ऑब्लिक मतलब जो टेढ़ा है, जो तिरछा है, उसमें जो ऊपर वाली मसल है वो सुपीरियर, जो नीचे वाली है इंफीरियर. रेक्टस मतलब होता है स्ट्रेट, और उसमें जो बड़ी मसल है वो मेजर, छोटी मसल है वो माइनर. क्लियर? नाउ दिस इज व्हाट वी हैव आफ्टर रिमूविंग द सुपरफिशियल मसल्स ऑफ back. Now in the back I told you that this is the cut margin of your trapezius. Now once you will remove this trapezius, below the trapezius you are having the next muscle that is known as splenius capitis. So this is the splenius capitis cut part. Now deep to this cut part you have the third muscle. This is your सेमी स्प्लेनियस कैपिटिस. सो जब आप ये तीनों मसल्स को काट देते हो, व्हेन यू रिमूव ऑल द थ्री मसल्स, यू आर एबल टू सी द ट्राइंगल. नाउ वेयर इज द ट्राइंगल? नाउ इफ यू विल सी दिस एरिया, in this the triangle is here. Now this is the triangle. I hope you can able to appreciate this triangular area. Clear? So ये triangle कहाँ है बच्चों? This triangle is very deep to the muscles which are present on the back, and here you can see that the triangle is visible but it is incomplete because it is deep to this part of the muscle. Here we have removed the muscle, so you can see the complete triangle here. And now what are the boundaries you are able to see? This is the one boundary, this is the another boundary, and this is the another boundary. So what is the boundaries? This is the medial boundary, this is the superolateral and supero-inferior boundary. ठीक है? अब हमें इसे ड्रॉ कैसे करना है? The main thing is how to draw and how to keep this thing in mind. For that you first understand the bony landmark. तो जब आप स्कल को नीचे से देख रहे हैं, when you will see the norma basalis, यहाँ पे कुछ important landmark है that we'll discuss. First is the external occipital protuberance. Now where is the external occipital protuberance? Now this point is known as external occipital protuberance. Now from the external occipital protuberance you have the line, and this line is going till the posterior border of foramen magnum, and this is known as external occipital crest. अब ये जो crest है, इस crest पे आप दो lines देखते हैं which are horizontal curved line. Now this is the one line which is going from the external occipital protuberance in the sides, and this is known as superior nuchal line. And at the midpoint we have one more curved lines, and this is known as inferior nuchal line. Clear? So first you have to identify these bony landmark. You should keep this thing in mind because I told you that suboccipital region is behind the foramen magnum. So this is the foramen magnum, and it is the area which is behind the foramen magnum. Clear? You have the muscles which I told you, trapezius, semisplenius capitis here. So whatever the muscles of suboccipital triangle, they are present in this area only. Now we'll have this part that is known as posterior view, norma occipitalis. In this is your crest. From the crest you have the superior knuckle line, you have the inferior knuckle line, and it is going till the posterior margin of foramen magnum. So I have drawn here the line diagram. इस line diagram को आप समझे. This is the foramen magnum. From the foramen magnum you have the external occipital crest which is reaching to the external occipital protuberance. This is your superior knuckle line, and this is your inferior knuckle line. Clear? It is not superior because I told you the line which is behind the foramen magnum is inferior, because this view is from the inferior side, this is from posterior side. So please don't confuse. The line which is behind the foramen magnum is inferior knuckle line, which is here, and the line which is adjacent to this external occipital protuberance is superior knuckle line, which is here. Okay, so first you have to keep this part in your mind where we are going to see the suboccipital triangle. Now how to draw? There are three steps to keep this thing in mind. It is very easy to draw. First line is your horizontal line. So I first draw the horizontal line. Then you have to draw two boxes down the center. This is the one box, this is the another box. So what I did is, first you have to draw a horizontal line, then you have to draw the two box. Now you have to draw two triangles, one on each side of first box. So I will draw the two boxes, two triangles sorry, on the side of first box. ठीक है बच्चों? So आपको पहले इतना कर लेना है. Now what I have drawn, this is your inferior nuchal line, this is your C1 vertebra, this is C2 vertebra. Clear? Now when you will see the this picture, what you are able to understand कि मैंने बनाया क्या, what we actually want to draw. This is the inferior knuckle line. Below the inferior knuckle line you have the presence of your cervical part of vertebral column. So I have drawn the C1, C2. Now this is the, suppose this is the spine of C1, this is the spinous process of C2, and these are the two transverse process of C1. Transverse process of C1. We don't want to draw the transverse process of C2 because they will not contribute in any form in this triangle. So आपको what are the bony landmark you have to draw? You have to draw the inferior knuckle line. You have to draw the C1, C2 body, that is particularly the posterior point, that is spinous process, and the transverse process of C1. Now in the next part we will start to draw the muscles. So what we did is, first I draw a connection between the base of occipital bone and C1 spine. Clear? Then there is one more connection. Now this connection is from C2 spine to the occipital bone. Then one more connection, that is from transverse process of C1 to the occipital bone. Then one more connection, that is from spine of C2 to C1. ठीक है? करना क्या है? It is very simple. Again, see this sequence. Once you have this in your mind, start to draw 4 lines. How many lines we have to draw? 4 lines, because I told you there are 4 muscles, those are going to form the boundaries. ठीक है? First, this is first. First कहाँ से कहाँ तक? Start from the spine of C1 to the occipital bone, then from C2 to occipital bone, then connect this point to the C1 and then C1 to C2. Clear? So these are the 4 lines which are representing the 4 muscles. Now we have to label these 4 muscles. So what are the labeling of these 4 muscles? Now this is the superior oblique. This is the oblique muscle, but it lies in the upper part, so it is superior oblique, then it is known as inferior oblique. This is the first thing. Superior oblique, inferior oblique. Now there is a 2 muscle, one is known as major, one is known as minor. Major means which is longer, minor means that is the shorter muscle. So but obviously this is known as major and this muscle is minor. Clear? It is very easy to understand. First, again, you have to draw these 4 lines. After that you have to label them. How to label? This is superior oblique, this is inferior oblique. So these are the 2 oblique muscles. Now we left with these 2 muscles. Now the longer one is the major and the smaller one is the minor. Now in this diagram you can appreciate this is the first muscle. Now this is the oblique muscle. Now this muscle is known as oblique inferior capitis. Inferior oblique capitis. This is the another muscle. Now this muscle is known as superior oblique capitis. This is superior oblique capitis. So this is the inferior one. This is the superior one. Then you have the medial boundary. Now this is the medial boundary, and this medial boundary is formed by the long muscle which is known as major. What the name is? Rectus capitis posterior major. Now this small muscle is known as minor. Rectus capitis posterior minor. ठीक है बच्चों, बड़ा सिंपल सा कॉन्सेप्ट है. मैं फिर बताता हूं आपको. यहां पे जो आपने 4 मसल्स बनाई हैं, इसमें ये कौन सी मसल है और ये कौन सी मसल है. These are the oblique muscles. So this is known as inferior oblique capitis, superior oblique capitis. inferior oblique capitis, superior oblique capitis. ठीक है. Now we have the two oblique muscle. So ये वाला जो oblique muscle है, this oblique muscle is longer in size, so it is known as rectus capitis posterior major. और ये छोटा मसल है rectus capitis posterior minor. But basically triangle कहाँ है? Where is the triangle? So triangle is here. This is the triangle. Clear? So triangle के अंदर mainly contribution किन किन muscles का हो रहा है? Superior oblique, inferior oblique and rectus capitis major. Not the minor, but we are considering is as one of the support of the medial boundary. ठीक है. यहां पे अब मसल्स का अटैचमेंट याद करना बड़ा इजी हो गया. क्यों? क्योंकि आपको now you have the bony landmark orientation that what this point is. This point is transverse process of C1. What this point is? This is spinous process of C2. What this point is? Spinous process of C1. Spinous process of C1. And what this area is? This area is suboccipital region, and we have divided this suboccipital region into the two parts with the help of inferior and superior knuckle lines. Clear? So now we will discuss the attachment of these muscles. So first is the oblique capitis inferior. So if you remember the oblique capitis inferior, we start this inferior muscle from the spine of C2. From where? This is C2. Clear? So what is the attachment? Inferior oblique attached between C2 and C1. Spine of C2 to the transverse process of C1. So it is the same thing written that oblique capitis inferior from spinous process of C2 goes upward to the transverse process of C1. So you can see here, this is the spinous process of C2, second cervical vertebra, and this is the transverse process of first cervical vertebra, and this connection is here. And what is the name of this muscle? Answer is, it is oblique capitis inferior or oblique inferior capitis. Clear? Oblique means it is placed obliquely. Inferior because you have the muscle is superior also. Now the second is oblique capitis superior. So where is the superior? This is the superior muscle. Now what is the attachment? Now it is now easy. It starts from the transverse process of C1 and it is going towards the suboccipital region. Now where the suboccipital region? This is your superior knuckle line. So it is present in the space between the inferior and superior knuckle line. So it is a vertical muscle extending from the transverse process of atlas. Clear? Atlas means first cervical vertebra, and it goes to the occipital bone attaching between the superior and inferior nuchal line. Clear? So this is again the important question to ask in exam, that oblique capitis superior attached in suboccipital region, where it attached behind the foramen magnum or deep to the superior nuchal line. It is not behind the foramen magnum. It is actually behind the foramen magnum. You have the inferior knuckle line first, then you have the superior knuckle line. So it is between the inferior and superior nuchal line. Clear? Then you have the two muscles, major and minor. Now where is the major? Now this muscle is the major muscle. Now this major muscle is having this line, and this line is the inferior knuckle line. Please try to understand this concept, that this space which you are able to see here, which space? This space. This space is actually the space between the superior and inferior nuchal line. And this muscle, oblique capitis superior, is between the inferior and superior knuckle line. But your rectus capitis posterior major and the minor are deep to this inferior knuckle line behind the foramen magnum. So in the very first slide, we have drawn this type of the image, foramen magnum, external occipital crest, external occipital protuberance, superior and inferior knuckle line. Now where is the attachment of these muscles? If I am talking about the oblique capitis superior, it is here. It is here. But when I am talking about rectus capitis posterior major and minor, these are here. Clear? So you have to understand this concept. It should be very clear in your mind. So it is very clearly written here that rectus capitis posterior major. So rectus capitis posterior major arises from the spinous process of second cervical vertebra, and it attaches on the suboccipital region, but where? Between the foramen magnum and inferior knuckle line. Rectus capitis posterior minor, it is a smaller muscle, so but obviously it will not arise from C2, it will arise from C1. So it will arise from the C1. And then it will go upward and it attaches again here in the adjacent part of the major muscle. Clear? Now what is the nerve supply? They all four muscles supplied by first cervical nerve, and that branch is known as occipital nerve. Clear? So this is the important thing which you have to keep in mind how to draw. For that you have to keep this diagram in your mind that हमें सबसे पहले inferior knuckle line बनाना है बच्चों. Then you have to draw the body of C1 and C2. C1 C2 के साथ में C1 पे आपको transverse process बनाना है और आपको फिर 4 lines draw करनी है. उसके लिए सबसे पहले आपको क्या करना है? You have to draw 2 lines from one point to the C1 and C2, and start from C2, go to the transverse process of C1 and ultimately in upper part. So ये जो combination है, ये क्या है? This is the oblique part. इस oblique part को आपने 2 टुकड़ों में तोड़ दिया with the presence of this bony point, that is the transverse process or tip of your C1. So this is known as inferior oblique, this is known as superior oblique capitis. Now ये जो 2 muscles बचती हैं, इसमें ये कहलाती है rectus capitis posterior major because ये बड़ी है, और ये कहलाती है minor because ये छोटी है. And in this area we are having the triangle that is known as suboccipital triangle. Clear? So at the end of this lecture, I hope you are able to understand how to draw the suboccipital triangle, what are the important bony landmarks in the suboccipital region, and what are the names of these muscles. It is very simple concept, so please keep reading, read this from the book, and if still you have any problem, you can comment. Thank you.